What I'd like, first of all, I'd like to introduce Mr. Richard Morton. And Richard spent his early career working in European road and sea freight operations and management. He was then project director for the Haven Gateway Partnership in the UK, being involved in a series of international projects relating to port cooperation and development. In 2011, Richard was appointed Secretary General of the European Port Community Systems Association, and this new association represents the first time that port community system operators have come together in a European association. The association aims to provide a voice for electronic data interchange operators within the maritime and logistics sector in the EU and internationally. There are now 21 association members from the EU, Ukraine, Israel and Australia. So Richard is here to talk to us about port community systems as trade facilitation tools. Please join me in welcoming Richard Morton.
Thank you very much. Thank you to David and to our hosts for asking us to speak here today. I'm going to talk about some practicalities of trade facilitation and specifically about port community systems. If you think about trade facilitation, it's about simplification of administrative procedures. But unless those procedures are linked with operational processes, you can have customs clearance in seconds. But unless somebody tells that person who owns that cargo that it is cleared, it still sits on the quay of a port, the runway of an airfield, etc. So today I'll talk about port community systems and how they link administrative and operational processes in order to make trade facilitation possible. So what is a port community system? Having spoken to a number of people over the last day or so, there's very few that have said, oh yes, I know what a port community system is. But they have been around in some cases for over 40 years doing the electronic exchange of information with the trade and with the administrative authorities. So the definition of a port community system, it's a neutral and open electronic platform that enables intelligent and secure exchange of information between the public and private stakeholders. And this will then in turn improve the competitive position of sea and airport communities. The key thing here is communities. It optimizes, manages and automates ports and logistics efficient processes through a single submission of data. And it connects the logistics chains. And this is key to it. Port community systems, the operators of them tend to be community organizations, i.e. they're made up of the organisation that runs the port community system is made up of the stakeholders, the freight forwarders, the shipping lines, the customs authorities, the maritime authorities, because you need all of those working in the same direction to actually help facilitate that trade. And that's the biggest difficulty about port community systems, is bringing together communities to go in the same direction. The technical side is not a challenge. So, why port community systems? As I said when I started, it's about linking administrative and operational procedures on an end-to-end basis, machine to machine, with all of the stakeholders. You will see the diagram here, which is the classic diagram of the processes involved in the movement of goods through a port. Everybody needs to have their part of that information included. Traditionally, it's been done by paper. But where a port community system exists, it becomes electronic and paperless. But as you will see, there's customs authorities, vessel traffic control, inspection authorities, maritime authorities, trade, whether it be customs brokers, ship agents, freight forwarders, hauliers, the list is endless. The shippers themselves who are owning the goods. And that's why what a port community system looks to develop. So as an example of a port community system, as you will see, the electronic exchange platform is in the center. All of the relevant parties are sending information to that exchange platform, which then sends information to the relevant authorised persons who need to see it. In some cases, it goes to customs. Customs will then let the port community system know that the cargo is cleared. The port community system automatically lets know the carrier, so the carrier can release the goods. And then the port can also be aware that it can release the container out of the gate. So it's a critical element, and it means that there is no paperwork involved. It simplifies the processes, but it does link the operational and the administrative side of things together. And how does that involve things? Well, we all know about single window, recommendation 33 from the UN, and that is where the ambition strives. But the UN themselves have recognised that a single window is the ultimate aim, but you've got to have collaborative IT systems. And so in November last year, in their Bangkok Trade Facilitation Conference, they published their paper on interorganisational information systems, which are a system for the collaboration and information exchange among independent stakeholders in the international trade. That's key. Port community systems already do that, and we supported in writing that paper in order to make it aware, make organisations aware that if you want to achieve single window, you need to have collaborative systems together. The summary and recommendations of that paper stated that government should continue to simplify and automate trade under a national trade facilitation and single window strategy. But they need to look at what is already out there and assess the gaps, the holes that there might be. In some cases, there won't be holes because port community systems, shipping lines' own systems or shippers' own systems already work together on an end-to-end basis, computer-to-computer basis, without human intervention. The governments should also then encourage more collaboration. And also, what are the benefits? The benefits are cost. If the trade is paying to develop systems and they can collaborate together, the governments or the states do not have to pay that cost for developing those systems. You're going to have much simpler links into their own. And they also say that there should be an open single window environment, and also to develop a framework where necessary for the agreement between iOS suppliers. And an iOS is also a port community system. And so coming back to port community systems as trade facilitation tools, many of you will have much more knowledge about the definition of trade facilitation, but we see it as a simplification and harmonisation of international procedures, including import and export. It's about trade logistics. And trade facilitation should also mean looking at logistics performance. If you look at the recent World Bank publication for the Logistics Performance Index, the customs, the countries that are in the top 20, a majority of them have port community systems because they link the trade. And that's critical to see that the effects that a port community has on the GDP of a country. It moves goods quicker and faster through just by the efficient exchange of information. And here, a port community system can act as a gateway, a trade facilitation tool to the national single window. They already have huge amounts of data within their systems, and that data can be transferred to a national single window where all of the authorities have that information. The port community system already deals with numerous authorities, whether it's customs, inspections, veterinary, sanitary, etc., etc. And that's the beauty of it. The systems are there, they're moving forward, and they can optimize the actual port processes. They can maximize the use of existing systems. Let's not build a new IT system. Whenever we talk about single window, most people start thinking about a new IT system. You don't. You need to work together and use the existing systems, particularly these collaborative systems. They also respect the confidentiality of the players. The commercial sector do not want to share their commercially confidential data with their competitor. A port community system is that trusted party that does that. It makes sure it doesn't share that data, it's secure and is trusted. And as I said, some of them have been in operation for 40 years or more. So that's a brief overview of port community systems. You will hear a bit later with the demonstration of what a port community system does in a live demonstration. But just a bit about the European Port Community System Association. We only formed in 2011. We now have 21 members who operate in ports handling in excess of 80 million TEUs. That's over 2 billion tonnes of cargo. And the countries where we're a European organisation by name, but we're international by nature. Most of our members operate in places outside Europe as well, because the port processes are the same, but they're very similar all over the world. But the global problems that there are very similar as well, and therefore port community systems can be developed. We are a member-driven association. Our members drive us and tell us how we want to work with the international bodies, and then we hold events and workshops. And I'm pleased to announce that on Friday we'll be signing a Memorandum of Understanding with the INCU. What that means, we'll agree a method of working, we'll look at core activities in improving the understanding of trade facilitation. The initial activity will be to support in the development of a port community system module that can be presented in universities as part of Customs University's curriculum. And we, as an association, will invite INCU members to be part of our research group in order to look at future technologies which will help trade facilitation. And we'll be signing that on Friday. And we will continue the discussion, as we do in all of our annual conferences, on June the 4th in Italy. And so thank you very much. You will see a demonstration in a short while about port community systems. So thank you very much for listening.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Richard. I've always said that port community systems are basically the single window of the private sector, and Customs thinks that they perhaps invented the single window, but I think it came from the port community system model. So thank you, and we'll call for questions afterwards. So thank you very much for that.